Hello again and welcome to Manch Talk. I am Tammy Simmons.
And I'm Carla Garrick, and apparently my hair looks fabulous.
That's right.
So does
Apparently
Tammy's.
we have not a bad hair day. Yeah.
Okay, it's hot.
It's hot, it's cold, it's raining, it's not, it's hot, it's cold. That's the weather out there.
Yeah,
today and tomorrow, thunderstormy, 89, and then it goes back to rain. Is it me? Or has July become like the new May? Because I don't remember as a kid June being brutally hot, which it seems in recent years June has been like crazy summer, and then we go through this month of crap, and then we go back to August.
So here's my theory. I think people don't know anything about the weather.
I agree.
And we just make stuff up all the time.
Well, we remember things conveniently however we want.
You know, and so I actually saw a chart the other day because, you know, I'm one of those people, everyone knows, I don't trust the government. I don't trust most of the stuff that comes out of colleges. I think they're the wrong incentives.
Yep.
They're incentivized to come up with whatever the narrative is. So people kind of find their data points. So with climate change, I've always been like, I'm not sure what's going on there. And I love the environment.
Right.
And I want to make sure that, you know, I'm right about things. I like being right. So I like to research things. And so I saw a chart last week that actually showed, so one of the things that you'll see is people say, okay, everything's warming. And if you go look at the data, it does seem that way because what is happening is we know cities are warm, right? So there's lots of cement, there's lots of glass, there's lots of reflective stuff, right? But cities have also grown over time. So what happened was they had measurements in cities and then they had measurements outside the cities. But then the cities grew, so these measurements actually do become warmer.
Because there's
so
more.
So it looks like there's this this serious warming that's happening. But when you actually factor that in, or if you take measurements that are just literally from the countryside, where they've been, 200, 300 years, because there are actually, weather records that go back in time. With those, you'll find it does go like this, right? Those are seasonalities beyond
that's just the way it is.
Like El Nino and all of that kind of stuff. And if you look at those charts that don't, take cities that have changed or whatever, if you're just comparing apples to apples over millennia, the data points, the numbers aren't going up.
Right. It would be like saying, so over the years in Manchester, it's going to be warmer because it's a city compared to Bedford.
Right.
But if you look at the numbers from Bedford from 100 years ago when Bedford was far more rural.
Right.
And you looked at Bedford's numbers today, Bedford's going to be warmer today than it was before because it has become more urbanized. But if you go out to, say, I don't know, East Nowhere, Walpole, New Hampshire, or
I don't know where Walpole is. I'm sorry, Walpole. I have no idea.
or Temple, New Hampshire. I'm going to guess that the numbers.
Dixville Notch.
I'm going to guess that those numbers don't show an increase because it is funny. We were watching a thing this morning. We were starting to watch it, and then Dan goes, "Wait a minute, that doesn't even make any sense." It was about homeless numbers in the country. And you're like, oh, except for they were showing it as a percentage of the homeless, like based on the United States population, not based on per capita where they were. And I'm like, so that doesn't mean
Well, that also, and I will just say this, I think it was 4th of July weekend. We had a long weekend. Louie and I watched a lot of documentaries. I got mad about all kinds of stuff. And then I got happy about a bunch of stuff. But, I'm like, the war on poverty. So the government's been fighting that for 100 years. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm at the stage where I'm like, okay, either they're rank incompetent or they're doing something wrong. But it's like, so every problem the government tries to fix is getting worse.
Yep.
So I don't understand. I don't understand why we're still kind of looking to them for the solutions. Because clearly whatever we're doing isn't working.
Well, obviously, government here locally is not receptive to the needs of the people. year after year after year. It's funny because Facebook bubbles up things, and I laugh because I'm like, still doing it. The drop-off facility in Manchester. We have a drop-off facility up on, what is that, Dunbarton Road, where you can pay to bring your debris. Whether it's you got to get rid of an old couch, or you've got yard waste too big to put out at the curb, or whatever.
Or you could just be that jerk who drops it on, Dubuque.
Right.
Every week, someone leaves their trash on our hill. They are just slowly trying to drive me nuts.
Right, because it's too, I'm thoroughly convinced that many people have no idea what to do with their trash. It's not a very well publicized thing, in my opinion. And then you got people who just aren't going to pay to get rid of something, so they're just going to dump it on your hill or in the side of the street or whatever. But in Manchester, instead of being open when people can go, when actual residents can go, they're only open 2 Saturdays a month, the first Saturday and the third Saturday of the month. So if you go on that Saturday, and Representative Ross Berry posted this thing last month because he went and he was like, what the heck? Because there's if you go on Saturday morning and it's not raining, there's going to be a dozen or 20 cars in front of you, and you spend hours there because it's just not.
Because your time is invaluable. Right. Because you're non-essential. Please don't forget.
They're open the first and the third Saturdays, as if that's not bad enough. Now, this past weekend, 4th of July weekend, 4th of July fell on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. For most employers, like my employer, whatever, we decide, okay, so are we going to take Monday off as the holiday off or Friday off as the holiday off?
Oh, okay.
Some people, I assume most places it was Monday. So you would presume, silly me, that Monday would have been the holiday for city employees. Seems to be the thing. That's fine, whatever. So why would the drop-off facility be closed both on Monday and on Saturday this past weekend? And I'm like, so wait a minite.
So for the month of July, we have one turn.
Because a holiday.
How much are our taxes going up again?
1.8 something percent, because we kept them that low. That's as low as we can keep them.
Well, it's because of the tax cap. Thank you, Tammy.
I just don't understand why like you said, people still trust in the government, and the government basically sucks at what they do. They're just not good at it. And a good business would be like, oh my God, look at all these people showing up on Saturday. Maybe I'll close on Tuesday.
So for the folks back home, this is the point, right? So the difference between a market and what the government does is the government pretends it's providing you a service without any of the incentives that a service actually creates, which is, hey, I have to treat my customers well because I want them to come back, because otherwise I'll lose them. But what the government has is a monopoly, right? So they have this capture. So they're like, well, you can't fire us, so,
deal with it.
We'll be open once this month.
Because, nobody's doing yard cleanup or work on their homes or getting rid of furniture or anything in the month of July. Why would anybody need to go to the drop-off facility in July?
And honestly, in the end, I feel like it probably creates more work for them, too, because then, I've got to go to the app and be like, another person left another sofa on this piece of road in, our neighborhood. We did a We Heart West yesterday. It was great. We probably had 10 just neighborhood people showed up. There were a couple of people I didn't know.
Cleaning Lafayette Park, right?
We did Lafayette Park because they had the fireworks there last night. So we thought, it'll be really nice if people come out. I got the impression that someone had done a swing before us because it was pretty clean. We did end up cleaning a lot of the street. You know what? Can people just stop with their Dunkin' Donuts crap all over the
It used to be McDonald's
streets.
wrappers. Now it seems to be Dunkin' Donuts. And can people please stop throwing their cigarette butts on the ground? It makes me absolutely insane. And
I have one of those little clipper things, and sometimes a few of us know each other, so we're kind of like hanging out and walking together, and we got to like one area that clearly is like a corner or someplace that everyone smokes. So we're kind of doing that for a while, and then you get a little obsessive, and then I was like, oh, this is so gross.
It is. It's just a disgusting
habit.
I just don't
and
get it.
You know what? I'm an ex-smoker. I used to do it. So sorry to the entire world that I polluted, but you know what? Just make it a mindful thing. If you're going to do something that gross, just nip it, save it, have a plastic bag, carry it around, and throw it out in the trash.
Just like We pick up our dog poop. Please pick up your cigarette butts.
Also, though,
yes,
I'm like, why hasn't the market figured out like disposable filters yet?
I don't know. Because there's no it's
incentive?
addictive. There's no incentive to make them right. There's the cost to make a biodegradable filter probably would be higher, and there's no incentive because people are addicted.
Maybe. I mean, did you see also, this just blew my mind. So they're making menthol cigarettes illegal. I don't know if that's a national thing or if it's a state thing.
Somehow the argument, the pitch they'll make you is that menthol cigarettes are more appealing to children.
I mean, I think I mean, I will say this. I dated a guy in college. He was a medical student. And why I smoked, I still don't know. I used to get chronic bronchitis from it. It's a disgusting habit. If you have it, try and quit. It's gross. But he would always say to me, like, I would get chronic bronchitis because I was a 2-pack-a-day smoker at the time. And he'd be, whenever I got sick, he'd be like, you should switch to menthols while you're sick. And I would. And I'm like, that is, first of all, the dumbest thing ever. And second of all, but it just persuades you, you know, like physiologically, you're just tricking yourself where you're like, well, this one tastes minty, so it must be better for me. It is not. But so I think what's going to happen, right? So if they outlaw menthol cigarettes,
they'll just have other flavors.
Well, they'll have other flavors, but now you've once again created this incentive where every time we write a law, now someone's got to go enforce it. Yeah. So what are we going to have, like the menthol police, and they're going to, come down on?
They're going to find businesses. But I mean, like, do we not have anything better to do? This is not related, but similar. And I left me doing this yesterday or the day before. So I have a dog. You have a dog. For those of you who don't know, people with small children, people with dogs, people who have post-traumatic stress really generally don't like fireworks. Not because they don't want anybody else to have fun, but they're just disturbing. They're these, and I have a pet peeve. I've never liked firecrackers. Like my entire life, I never could understand the point of them. I'm like, they're just obnoxious. So it's one thing when we have these big, beautiful fireworks. It's one thing if somebody wants to buy fireworks and let off pretty fireworks in the neighborhood at night. Okay, whatever.
Who are these people doing the 4:00 in the afternoon percussion explosion?
That's what I had. So it was, I don't even know what day it was. There was one day, and there is this obnoxious, I am talking obnoxious boom that I looked at Dan and I was like, where is that?
I mean, I'm when it's this weekend, I'm like, fireworks, gunfire.
So, we literally drove, around the neighborhood, and we were on our way out, and I'm like, let's go see if, we could see a bunch of kids. What is it? And as we're driving, there goes another one, and there's this older woman raking her yard, and you see her go, because it's that insanely loud. So that was whatever day. So then, today's Tuesday, so it must have been Sunday. I was out in the yard doing something, and that obnoxious rate, just 30 feet from me. And I was just like, holy cow, we are talking, these are adults. And I just looked over and I said, you apparently don't have children or dogs. And I don't think you realize how traumatizing that noise is for people. And this young guy, who doesn't live in this house, by the way, proceeded to berate me, call me a Karen. I was being disrespectful to him somehow by pointing out how obnoxious the loud, because they weren't, it was like an M80. It wasn't, and it was in the middle of the afternoon, and he was so belligerent, and I just thought, wow, people have just totally lost their minds and just don't care about other people. I don't get up and mow my lawn at 4:00 in the morning.
No, I mean, so it's one of those situations where I have so much tension between, between the things, right? Because on the one hand, I believe in freedom, and I think people should, I'm glad New Hampshire has, fireworks that you can buy and that it's not illegal and all of that stuff. On the other hand, it is noise pollution. And so in a truly free market privatized society, you would have covenants that would say, well, this is noise pollution and you can't do it here. So you would have a neighborhood where you could explode fireworks fireworks, and maybe all the cat people live there because our dogs don't freak out, you know. But certainly for us, I mean, this year, to be honest, was the best it's been because my dog's gone deaf. Right. Now, that makes it hard because we can't take her off leash anymore because she doesn't listen to commands. So she'll be like toddling off and smelling something, and we'll be like come, dog, come, you know. But it was great because she wasn't freaking out as much as she has in the past. But we're also kind of up on that hill, right? So everyone who's down in the holler is doing the fireworks, and it explodes like right there. So it's like boom the whole time. And then my question, who is the person who has to do it at 3 a.m. when everyone is asleep? Because that one is like, you're a jerk.
Especially last night. I mean, not only did we had Saturday, we probably had Friday night, and then we had Saturday night, and then 4th of July on Sunday, and then because Manchester pushed it to Monday, then people were doing it again last night. And when we went to bed last night, we had the air cranked so that noise is happening, and I could still hear it, and I just was like, how much do we have to put up with?
And I do think it is important to actually mention the people with PTSD and the veterans, because
I wish I had thought about it, because I wish I had said to this guy, are you aware of the fact that just a block this way is a guy who has PTSD, and he posts signs like everybody in his little neighborhood knows not to let off fireworks because it literally shell shocks him.
I mean, so I know, I haven't actually seen this much here, but I know in South Africa where we had military conscription, so people were forced to go fight in wars that no one wanted to fight in, illegal border wars that no one was allowed to talk about. It was banned from the newspapers, censored, you know, all this suspicious stuff we're starting to see here. But I remember actually my husband Louis telling a story where they were in Mozambique, and it was probably a couple of years after that border war, and someone set off those firecrackers that do, you know, and he said they were in a bar and literally half the bar just like hit the ground like they were in a war situation. And so it's kind of like, okay, let's try and be mindful. I'm all about the freedoms and stuff, but
like, think about, like, people have to stop just thinking about, well, it's me, because this guy's answer initially was, mind your own business, lady, it's 4th of July. And I'm thinking, I'm guessing you I can't even tell me what you're celebrating. Like, just because based on the conversation. But it's like, okay, so it's okay for you to celebrate and disturb your entire neighborhood. It's okay for you to smoke a cigarette and throw it on the ground because you're too lazy to pick up after yourself. It's okay to drink the Dunkin' Donuts and throw the cup because, you know, somebody else will come along. People have to start, I think, taking responsibility for their own lives and remembering that they're not the only person in their surrounding communities. So interesting, because things are. Lil Birdie told me over the weekend, because I have bird feeders, and Lil Birdies come all the time and tell me all sorts of interesting things. Crazy amount of birds. I've got tons and tons of birds, but crazy little Birdie told me that in tonight's Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting, because today is Tuesday the 6th, I guess, in the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting, I don't know if this is on the agenda or not, but that somebody's going to make a motion to put the language making the school district its own taxing authority on November's ballot. Now, interesting little tidbits, because this is what happens. So I was like,
okay, and just for the folks back home, basically what that would mean is that we currently have a tax cap thanks to the hard work of Tammy and some other people who literally went door to door, collected thousands and thousands of signatures.
4,036 if you want to.
To be precise. And that tax cap is all that's standing between us and just
double-digit taxes. Let's be honest, like double-digit taxes.
So if you're grateful that your taxes on your property taxes aren't increasing and increasing and increasing because you get less services and you're paying more people's pensions, then it's, you know, thanks to that. So the schools are like, we want to spend more. Yes. So for years now, they've been trying to sort of get the schools away from this tax cap through various different moves over the years. And so this is the latest move.
And the school district doesn't like, and the school board doesn't like, that ultimately the aldermen decide how much money they're going to steal from Carla and I and all of you watching to give to the schools. The aldermen don't control how they spend the money, but they control the total amount that is stolen from all of us in the way of property taxes, whether we want it or not. So a couple years back, Pat Long, this isn't coincidence. I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but having been in politics for so many years and seeing how these things play out, I can usually see it. So back in, we're in 2021. So back in 2019 or early 2020, Pat Long pushed a bill through when they had Democrat-controlled State House to allow us to amend the charter without state approval or something, and it was poorly written. And then we put this school charter committee in place, which is just like weird.
And then there was the whole dates thing where they said they needed to file in this date, and there was a lawsuit that Mark Warden filed, who was a state rep.
There was a question on last year. Now keep in mind, they really wanted the question that they're talking about putting on this year, which is a city election year, to have been on last year's ballot, which was a state election year. So the question we all voted on last year was, shall we allow them to amend? Where they wanted it to be, shall the school district be its own taxing authority type question. So the years that they're shooting for usually have play into it, because the Democrats felt that in Manchester, in the state election year, they could probably get enough out-of-state money to push that through without people knowing. I did pull up the results. The question that we did have passed, but that question was basically, can we have another question? Almost 10% of the people who voted left it blank because people are like, I have no idea what this means.
This was also the question where people were saying at the ballot, at the actual polling stations, that they were being told when they were putting them in the machines that people
they
vote yes.
Yes. There were people.
There was dodgy stuff going on.
So when we're talking about people, like we talk about the war on poverty and how the government's always claiming to want to help poor people.
Stop making war.
So what's interesting to me is when you look at who supported which wards support allowing the government to tax you more, it's always wards 1 and 2, the richest wards in our city. So the people with the money want to be able to tax the people without the money more so that they can spend more of the money to help kids. But those same people oppose school choice, which actually helps kids without stealing more money from more people who can't afford it. So anyways, the alderman, supposedly a little birdie, told me that they're going to sneak that into the aldermanic meeting tonight.
Well, I'm just going to say, if it's not on the agenda, maybe we will complain about that. Aren't they supposed to?
I don't know. I guess anybody
agenda?
Can make a motion, right? But what is interesting, because I haven't really done too much digging because, we had a holiday. I always go back.
We did digging, but it was in the garden.
It was little digging, right? I dug plants. So back in 2008, which we're talking now 13 years ago, Dan ONeill was an alderman then.
Wow.
Because Dan ONeill's like a fixture. He's been there way too long. Just keeps getting reelected. Doesn't ever have a new idea or anything good for the community, but whatever.
These are all the people who actually create the problems, don't solve the problems, keep telling us they're problems, and I'm like, why are we still voting for them?
Dan ONeill, back in 2008, when we were trying to get the spending cap on the ballot, was one of the aldermen who refused to vote to put it on the ballot. So, 13 years ago, you taxpayers were too dumb to understand what limiting spending would mean. They literally, Mike Lopez and Dan ONeill, and said the voters are too stupid to know what limitations on spending would mean. But now, mark my word, Dan ONeill will vote to send this to the ballot because apparently now suddenly the voters are smart enough to understand something as complex as what giving taxing authority to the schools will mean. Now the Democrats will tell you, all this does is allow them to, use the money better and everything. Okay, let's cut to the chase. This wording will mean the school will be out from underneath the tax cap and will cause your taxes to go up more than you have seen in well over a decade.
I mean,
every single year.
And Nashua is a good example because they don't have a cap, if I recall correctly. They have some
They
weird,
have a cap
like,
that
thing.
wasn't working, and then they did just pass
pass-
legislation that supposedly will fix that. Whatever.
You know, but didn't their property taxes just go
Their
up
property
like
taxes
12%
always go.
or something? Bedford, same story,
We
right?
talk about this all the time. In Manchester, we're talking about we want to give more power to the school district and the school board. These are the people who couldn't meet the state's deadline to send kids back to classroom. We were the only school district in the entire state of New Hampshire who couldn't manage to get the kids back in the classroom. We're the same school district that seems to think that if we build a monstrosity of a state-of-the-art school, somehow that will improve reading scores.
Not only that, but lest we forget, there was an audit that was done. There was a report that came out that said, based on the numbers, so the data tells us we must close this number. It was 4 schools. And that was what it said, is we don't have the enrollment to support this, and we should close these 3 schools and this 1 high school, right? Period. That somehow has now morphed into, let's close all these schools and build a mega school. You know what isn't good for the world? Mega anything.
Nope.
The bigger stuff is
Supersized meals, never good.
The worst things are. What we want to do is we want to devolve till we're down to each individual who is taking care of themselves.
Well, and we won't have time. We're in our 2-minute warning already. But the education savings accounts that passed in the state budget will empower families to make decisions that are better for their children. It will be very interesting.
And that is where the money is going to follow the child. So if that's something you're curious about, definitely do your research. Reach out to the Department of Education.
Department of Education's going to have I think they're going to do a campaign because they don't think most people realize what this program is and how it can benefit
And really
their kids.
all it does is it creates opportunities for you, the actual customer. It's your money.
Yep.
You should be able to spend it the way you see fit.
Yep. So, all that
Check
said,
out my book.
Check out Carla's book at carlagarrick.com, right?
Yep.
And if you have any input on the drop-off facility or education savings accounts or Dan ONeill or pretty much anything going on in Manchester, you can email us at manchtalk@gmail.com. You can watch our videos. I don't even know if we're going to keep uploading to YouTube because YouTube
I upload to YouTube to my channel, carlagarricktv.com, and it also goes to Odyssey automatically.
I'm gonna start watching. You should start watching on Odyssey more than not.
Yes. And next week we can talk about The Social Dilemma. You should watch that too. It's a great documentary, and I think it's worth having a conversation about. Social media is addictive. It's bad for you, and anyone who's ever designed social media does not let their children use it. That should tell you everything you need to know.
Yes. So between now and then, that's your homework project. Go watch Social Dilemma on Netflix, I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, have a great week. Get out there, pick up your yard, make sure that your neighbors aren't angry because you got cigarette butts and trash all over your front lawn.
Yep.
And we will be back next week for another wonderful episode of Manch Talk.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, guys.